Good morning. Good morning. Oh my gosh. It's like 30 something people here this morning. I did not expect this many people or anyone really, to be honest with you. It's Memorial Day, at least in the United States, and it's a very early Monday morning. How are you guys doing today? How are you doing? I normally, to people who are new here, I just want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you for subbing. I know there are a lot of new people who've come over from the Heels versus Babyface channel. You've been watching us do reviews of, my God, the tragedy that was Naomi. Oops. Oh, goodness. The tragedy that was Naomi. And not only that, but apparently the Kenobi show, which is falling apart very quickly. Very quickly. We've only seen episodes 1 and 2, and it's already killing us all. I don't know what to expect from that show going forward. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the Depp versus Heard trial. See what our predictions are. I found an article that's covering Depp v. Heard that's already framing the outcome. It's a Heard Shield channel, and they're already framing the outcome in such a way that they're basically trying to prep it to suggest that he was going to win anyway, and it's because he's powerful and he's a man, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes. But before we get into those things, let's see who is here. Hold 1 second. All right, let's see. Raj Dane. Hello. He says it's not about the boy. Yeah, that's a quote from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. It's not. It's not about the boy. Because of course it's not. Why would it be about Luke? Why would a show called Kenobi be about, I don't know, Kenobi and his responsibility to Luke? That's just crazy. That's crazy talk. It's absolute crazy talk. Dark Wire is here. Good morning. Hopefully yes to the first and sadly yes to the other. I think you're right. I think that Johnny Depp is going to win. I just throw that out there. But Obi-Wan Kenobi I think is already a loss. Oh wait, Disney Star Wars is not canon. Hello. He says Obi-Wan Kenobi will be a real opener for the normies. What do you mean by that? I think even the normies would be, or you would think by this time would be shocked to some degree that these shows, one after the next, isn't really about the main character. After you see Loki, do you not realize it's not about Loki? After you see the Multiverse of Madness, do you see that it's not about Doctor Strange? Like, how many times does it have to happen? How many times does a pattern have to repeat before even a normie realizes that Hawkeye isn't about Hawkeye? You know, the shows aren't after after the main character. They're entirely about replacing those characters. You should get tired of that. You should be tired of the bait and switch if you are a normie. You don't even have to be one of those people who's obsessed with lore or canon or whatever. Like, you could just, as a reasonable person, you're buying one product, you're paying for one thing, and they're selling you something completely different. Like, at what point does it just get through people's heads that this is insane? Oh my God, I'm getting upset too quickly. Let's just slow down. Let's go back a little bit. Turn from Earth, your name is killing me. Obi definitely didn't win, but maybe Johnny will next week. I think he will. Slash Sigh. Hello, hello. I know I'm behind in the chat. I'll get there. Wolfbane, good morning. I should watch Meat Canyon. He has a video on it. Reptile, hello. Move for George Lucas, hello. Washington. Love your stuff with heels are not subject. This well, welcome. Thank you. Bone is here. Isabella is here. Hello. Dan Kostov says greetings from Bulgaria. Wow. Welcome. Muradi. Hello. Reptile says that Johnny will win even if he loses. I agree. I think people at this point know now. He had an opportunity to put his voice out there to tell people exactly what is going on. And thankfully, thankfully, I think it's getting through to Hollywood as well as the community at large that he really was himself a victim, but also that Amber has been using, weaponizing the whole Me Too movement and the sympathy people tend to automatically have for the female in a domestic violence dispute. And look, statistically speaking, it usually is the woman who's the victim because she tends to be smaller and all of that, but that's not always the case. Men can be victims too. Older men can be victims too. Larger men can be victims too. Men who are quote unquote more powerful can also be victims. And hopefully, this is a lesson that has come across through this trial process. And I'm glad that he had an opportunity to have his voice and be heard. And I think it is a win for him either way, but he needs to actually win. I think we need a jury decision in his favor to just secure it and close the door on this once and for all. Because otherwise, she's going to continue, with her parade of victimization. And nobody needs to see that. Sultan Al Fahim. Oh my God, what? What is it? Mr. Grant Gregory, hello. I'm not back on Twitter. I know for those who are wondering, I left Twitter and Instagram for a little bit. I just disabled it. It's just, y'all know, social media can be a cesspool. So it was just annoying after a while. It was just too much. It was too much. Sultan Al Fahim is here. Hello. I'm going to scroll down. Dark Ace, Mr. Dark Ace 28. Haven't watched Stranger Things. Stranger Things is actually really good this season. I've been enjoying it. Zachariah, hello. Hello. Raging Rhino. Yes, and yes to both questions in the title. Hello. Thank you for joining me this morning. The Boys is releasing in a few days. Well, not too excited about The Boys, honestly. Oh, Banyard is here from Poland. Oh my goodness. Wow. Farrago is here. Hello. You're so sorry for my suffering for Naomi. Oh my God. That entire review is better than the show. Trust me. It's so much better. Oh, okay. I'm gonna scroll down. I know I'm gonna miss some people. Oh no. Hello, Kai. Thank you. Move Fart with a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says, my ex-wife tried pushing me down the stairs because I didn't want to argue with her. See, that's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Anybody can be a victim of that, especially when you're dealing with someone who is a narcissist. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can say that's ever going to be right. And they will escalate it to violence at some point. It will always get worse. And that's another lesson that comes from this. It's like, be careful who you choose to be in relationships with. And when it starts getting out of hand, that is when you get out as quickly as possible. And I know everybody has their reasons for staying, but at the end of the day, it's best for your safety and your sanity to just walk away, at whatever cost. And usually people stay for different reasons. They stay for the kids, they stay because they love that person, they stay because they don't want to be lonely, they stay because they don't want to start over, especially if they're older. Um, Johnny Depp, what's so interesting about his situation is that if you look at his history, his dating history, which has been public, he hasn't really been a womanizer, Like he's gone from one long-term relationship to the next. And each of his past girlfriends before this one, including his ex-wife, has not had a negative thing to say about him. Like they may talk about his drug habit, which, he had a problem with that, obviously. But in terms of how he treated them, not a word, not a negative thing to say. Kate Moss, I remember reading an article where she talked about their relationship, and they broke it off after years, years, and she said she cried for years after because she loved him. Um, the ex, I think it was his ex-wife he had children with. One of the women he had children with, nothing negative to say about him, not a bad word. So for him to have a series of not necessarily maybe the best relationships because he did have a substance abuse problem, but at least loving relationships, I think says a lot. I think that says a lot that people after so many years in Kate Moss's, I mean, God, I don't even know how long ago that was they were together. Years ago. What, 30 years? For her to come forward, I mean, that tells me all I need to know. But yeah, this is, this is what we're dealing with here. Good morning, Alphonse. Hello. That's right. No court today. When do you guys think there will be a verdict? Some saying Wednesday or Thursday. I wonder if the jury already has their mind made up and they're just taking the holiday to sort of get some, break, to give themselves some peace before everything just sort of falls apart. Because I know, like, as soon as they give their verdict, I wonder if the judge is going to release their information because I'm sure people want interviews and all sorts of stuff. It won't be today. It won't be today. It'll be when the court resumes. They'll tell the judge if they've made a decision, which they may or may not have. We'll see. Sometimes it can take longer. There's a lot of material. There's a lot of testimony. Um, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Disney Star Wars is not canon. Says nobody wants to be lonely. Nobody wants to cry. My body is longing to hold you so bad it hurts inside. Is that a lyric? She's exactly. I love the fact that that came out, that she was already a domestic abuser even before this relationship. And look, this is something that I think too often people don't take into consideration. Like, I'm not saying that people who have a history of criminal activity don't deserve a second chance. That's not what I'm saying. But if someone has a history of domestic violence, you need to think very carefully about whether you want to deal with the possibility of that in your relationship. And is there an explanation for it? There never will be. There never will be a good explanation for why you chose to put your hands on someone else. The only thing you would need to hear from someone like that is what has happened in your life to cause you to believe that that was not okay. Counseling, therapy, that's great, but I want to know, like, what in your mind has changed? Why does it now click with you that it's not okay to put your hand on someone else? That's all I need to know. Mr. Grant Gregory says, I wonder if Amber's next husband or wife will get beaten. She doesn't seem to have learned anything from this, so probably so. Probably so. I don't remember if the sister got beat as well. I think I remember hearing about something with them. But of course, if her sister's on the stand, unless there was a police report or another witness, I wouldn't have expected her to tell the truth. I would fully expect her to cover. I would fully expect her to cover. Felix says the judge said the jurors' names will be sealed for a full year. Okay, so that makes sense. That's good. I'm happy for them that that's the case. It'll give them a little bit of a break from the drama that is sure to unfold. Sultan Al Fahim said she even treats people who work for her badly. That was another thing that came out in this trial, and it was so interesting, the testimony from the people who worked for the both of them, who testified that how, she treated them, how she treated the staff was just terrible. She was just a terrible person, a miserable person to be around, and a terrible person to work for. And her lawyers they tried their best to try to twist it, like saying that they worked for Johnny Depp. I'm like, no, I worked for both of them. I worked for her, and she was a terrible boss. She was just a sick human being. She treated her family terribly. That came out too. And I think they know. I think they know that so much of who she really is came out in this trial. That at the end, the cross-examination, the very last cross-examination of her was amazing because it forced her into a corner where she had to reveal herself. And you saw the hostility, you saw the arrogance, you saw the narcissism, all of it came through to the point where she undermined the very opening of her case. If you remember, when this case began, her attorneys opened the case by suggesting that the article really wasn't about Depp in the first place. It really wasn't about Depp in the first place. She was a victim of domestic violence and abuse her whole life. This is what they tried to suggest, right? She had always been a victim. That's why they went into their childhoods and all of that, because she wanted to set up this thing where I'm sure I made myself an example of abuse and I put myself out there, but it wasn't about Johnny. I didn't name Johnny. It was about my past. It was about my history. But in the cross examination at the end, she was forced to admit that it was about Johnny. The whole point of that article was to get back at him. It was to destroy him. She had nowhere to go but to the truth, finally. And the fact that they were able to drag that out of her, it was beautiful. It was like really something you would see on television. The fact that she was so easily baited into telling the truth, but we saw that all along too, though. We saw it at the beginning of the lawsuit with her attitude and the smirking and the laughing at things that weren't even funny. Like we knew where she was going to go. She was going to eventually break. And she did for the entire world to see. Wolfbane with $1. Thank you. Thank you. Felix says you could tell Camille and Ben were really there to clear Johnny's name. It was from the heart. I agree. I agree. You could tell that they were there for the truth and to make sure that the public saw it. And you could tell that too by how well crafted their questions were. My God. This was a really good show of cross-examination, of direct examination. Like, if anybody ever wants to be a lawyer or is interested in, like, what lawyers do in the courtroom, this was the best example. I mean, I'm sure this will be played in law schools across the country. Their questions were so tight. Their witnesses were so on point. Everybody contributed in a little way that just added to the overall picture of what he had been dealing with this woman. Good morning, Tina. Abu Nas, hello. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, hashtag free Jane Theory. Sending love to this badass queen. Hope you're doing okay. If Johnny don't get the win, we will riot. Keep on shining, hon. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not in Twitter jail though. I just took off because it was becoming too much. That's all. Everybody's in love with Camille. Everybody's in love with Camille. Mr. Dark A says, and their time management was flawless. It was because they went in, they knew what they wanted to get from each witness. They allowed enough time to absolutely destroy hers. It was beautiful. It was beautiful to behold. Wolfbane with a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says, on an unrelated note, Jane, Wheel of Time, race changing, more redheads. What? I'm not shocked. That's what they do now. That's what they do now. Oh my God, Tina. What, if anything, does not fix a leading question? I died. That was so funny. Elaine could not get her questions together to get her evidence in. That was hilarious. What if any she kept saying it. What if anything? What if anything, ma'am? That doesn't fix you're still leading. It's still a leading question. There's still no foundation. It's still hearsay. What if anything does not fix the problem. So they had her so unraveled, like she was unnerved. The only thing she could say was, "I'm trying. I'm trying." Ma'am, my God, what do you mean? This is why you prepare for trial. It seemed some days it seemed like they just walked in off the street. They didn't know where they were going or what they were there for. And I get that you're defending and presenting a case on behalf of someone who should lose. I mean, everybody in the courtroom, I think, realizes that she should lose. So you don't have a lot to work with. And as I think it was Camille who brought up, she didn't have a lot of witnesses really that were quality, quality or supportive of her version of events, her story. So you don't have a lot to work with, but that's no excuse. You know, you still have to put forth the best case you can, and I don't think she did. So yeah, she came across as very incompetent, and you don't want to argue with the judge, at least not, in public. That's what the sidebars are for. Go up to the bench and argue. Don't do it in public. And then prepare to move on to the next question. If you get an objection and you can't go forward, then just go ahead, just move on to the next question like it was intentional. Play it off. Shake it off. Alphonse, thank you, with a $5 Canadian super chat. Did you see the video of Amber and her sister dancing in her car to Bieber? What? After the settlement? Hmm? P.S. Love the sound of your voice, bud. Thank you. After the settlement or after the hearing? I haven't seen the video, but I think it's funny that they would get so excited so quickly. Like, what are you happy about? Defeat Amber we must. Kenny Long says, your clip of you making fun of Ray makes me laugh all the time. Ray is hilarious. And so is the new Ray, frankly. Look, we have Johnny Depp here. Hello. Reptile says, oh yeah, the fact that Amber's acting was so bad, the judge had to remind Amber she was under oath. That was funny too. Like, and that's the thing, like when she broke, you could tell that she didn't know like she started not only ignoring the judge's instruction, but she kept trying to talk. She was always talking directly to the jury, which is fine, but she tried to rush and get out like some bizarre explanation for her behavior or what she was trying to say to get around answering the question. And that was so funny. Like the jury, I just know were rolling their eyes at that foolishness. Mr. Dark Ace says, Grandma Lawyer Elaine, though she was a bag of chips and more thinking she was the aggressor, not knowing she was really the clown or the fool on the tarot card. And what's funny is she wasn't even the only one that had to be corrected. Remember that very weird expert witness who just was talking crazy? I mean, somebody said somebody said he seemed like the the patient who killed the expert and showed up to trial to do his job. And he did. The dude was wacko. He was a complete nutcase. How do you look at okay? So if you have a Dr. Spiegel, yeah, you have a witness. You have a witness who is a complete nutcase. You've talked to him before court. You theoretically have prepped him before court. You've gone through cross examination with him before court. You know how he's going to behave. Why do you choose to put this fool on the stand? Like, what? I mean, he came across as a complete lunatic. He seemed like someone said, he seemed like a paid actor. Just like the bee, yeah. But no, I was watching that live and I was just sitting there in shock because he wouldn't answer the question. He wasn't even listening to the questions he was being asked. His answer had nothing to do with the question being asked. And the judge had to repeatedly tell him, "Sir, answer the question." At one point, I think he even asked, "Do I have to answer the question?" "Sir, that's why you're here. That's why you're here." It's like that's the point of you being physically on the stand to answer questions. So yeah, you do have to answer the question. That was no expert psychiatrist. That was the actor Christopher Lloyd who played the scientist in Back to the Future. That's what it seemed like. Reptile says drink every time he says, "I'm not saying this, but," or "I'm not an expert on this, but." Exactly. I would have just said straight up, "Dude, are you just not an expert?" I mean, is that what you're telling us? Because we can disqualify you if you like. We can do that if you don't know why you're here. Mr. Grant Gregory says he reminded me of Lemony Snickers. Oh my god. It's you who have to answer my questions. Did you see the link? I did not. I'm sorry. You have to keep in mind, if you send me a link, I'll check it. But I'm so bad with doing anything live that I have to focus on just the one thing at a time. Michael Bingham with a $2 super chat. Thank you. He says, "You would have done better with Amber's lawyers." Oh my god, wait. Tina Bojan with the $5 super chat. Thank you. She says he was totally like Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. Oh my god. Mark with a C, hello. He says he reminded me of Doofenshmirtz. Oh, he did. So everybody remembers that. That's funny. Gray Man with a $3 super sticker, a pair with a heart. Thank you. I should have asked him about the flux capacitor. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bethesda's lore master says, and let's be real, almost all the actresses in Hollywood are just as awful as Heard is. I won't make a broad generalization, but I will tell you, I mean, it's an industry obviously that's full of people with very serious problems, especially it seems like American actors. For some reason, the British actors and even other actors from other countries seem to have a bit more stability. And maybe it's because they're better trained. They're actually like their profession is acting. They go to college, they learn, as opposed to people here who are just discovered, or sleep their way to the top, or they're related to somebody. I don't know. Yeah, 135 people in the chat. Like, this is the most people have ever been in my chat ever. It's like ever. Thank you guys for joining me today. This is insane. Wolfbane with a $10 super chat. Thank you. He says, Female Inquisitor. I'm a strong female warrior. I don't need no man to tell me what to do. I drink 1,000 gallons of muscle milk every day just to prove I'm better than you, Obi-Wan. Oh my God. That show. My God. Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Casually mentioned 1.21 gigawatts and see his reaction. Oh my God, they could have snuck that in. That would have been so funny. Gina Carano needs more roles. She's going to get a ton. Hollywood was built on nepotism. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why sometimes like people talk about we should hire, actors based on merit. The problem with Hollywood is that they don't do, like, they seldom, I won't say don't, but they seldom do that. They seldom do. We just, as fans, as people watching the stuff they put out, we just have to cross our fingers. Like, you never know if something's going to be good or not these days, even though you can generally assume it's going to be terrible. Hey, Mr. Crack Media. Corey Cochran is here. Cochran. Vessel of Amala says, This is why I strictly trust Bollywood actors. Right. And this is a good point, too. John Ware Jr. says the U.S. doesn't promote and emphasize the arts like they used to. That is so, so true. We definitely need to emphasize that a little bit more in our education. But I mean, the education system as a whole is falling apart. We know that. We know that. But let me pull up an article. We're going to start with Johnny Depp because I want to show you guys how they're preparing to frame this win. So this is an article from the Vanity Fair. And what you'll see is that they're already framing it like this. Like, why it seems like Johnny Depp has already won. And you may say it's because he put on a really good case, right? That's not what they're going to say, though. That's not how they're going to shape it. What they're going to say, okay, let's start at the beginning. So they talk about the trial overall, the weeks of exhibits, arguments, and witnesses, and that's fine. They go on to describe the heart of the defamation case, the Depp filed in 2019, is an op-ed that the Washington Post published in 2018, and look how they emphasize in which he's not named. Why would you phrase it that way? It's true he's not named, but he filed this lawsuit because he knew it left the impression that it was about him. It communicated in every other way that it was about him. And not only that, despite their initial case, that it wasn't about him or that it could have been about any number of other people, by the end of the trial, she acknowledged it was about him, the entire thing. So why would you continue this narrative? Is not to try and frame it as if, oh, he's just delusional. He's just making it all up. Thank you, Reptile. Thank you for joining me. They always try to frame it this way. And that's why every time we talk about these articles, I always want to focus everybody's attention first on how they set it up, because you can tell a lot about where they're going from there. Then they talk about Heard's attorney, Rottenborn, who, quote unquote, reminded the jury in his closing argument the point of contention is primarily two sentences. First, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic violence, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Then I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Now, what they're saying here is that she's referring to the moment when her bruised face was on the cover of People magazine. The fact that she was photographed outside of the courthouse trying to obtain a restraining order, what have you, against Depp. They completely ignore the fact that the evidence in the trial demonstrated clearly that that entire situation was choreographed, that it was planted. She went to the court to file for this restraining order with the bruise on her face, and as the TMZ witness testified, they were notified in advance to be there. They were notified in advance about what she was going to do, where the bruise was going to be, and that she was going to come out and pose for them so that they could get that shot. It, the fact, oh my God, driver's seat. The fact that this was all pre-planned with the media involved, it absolutely, exactly, Mr. Buttcrack Media, it absolutely suggests that she fabricated it. This was not something where she was victimized and she ran to the courthouse to get protection. And frankly, she didn't even have to go physically to the courthouse to do that. She could have had her attorney get the paperwork, complete it for her, and file it for her. She never had to go there. She did it specifically because she wanted to be seen. She wanted to get it out there that she was a victim of abuse. The only other person who it could have been by was Johnny Depp. She got her photos out there and she made herself into a model of victimization. That's what it was all about. And yeah, TMZ, they're grifters. They're opportunists. We know this. But they were part of it. I mean, they got called and said, hey, Johnny Depp's wife is going to show up and get a protective order. She's going to have a bruise on her face. She's going to show it to you. She's going to show it to you. And then they were right there to capture it. But they don't put any of that in here. That's not in the article. Because they want you to believe that she was just a victim. That she was just trying to get a restraining order. That's all. But that's not the truth. That's not what was happening. And I agree with you guys. I think the TMZ guy was awesome. It's funny because I think he could possibly lose his job for testifying about their methods. And yet they did it anyway. He did it anyway, despite the risk. Oh my God. Heels versus Babyface. Hey, Az, thank you for the $100 super chat. British pounds. Amber Heard is a lovely, sane woman. Marriage material through and through. I'm blinking really quite right now. You're blinking really quickly right now. Thank you. As. Oh my God. She is. She's a lovely woman, isn't she? She's so sweet and kind. Thank you, Az. Check out Az's channel. It's a small little channel on YouTube. You may not have heard of it. we do reviews occasionally. Hey, Jay. Hello. Amber does have the law on her side. I want to talk about that too, because the problem with Amber and with people who come out and try to use the courts, the person who tends to have the law on their side is the person who can get there first. And that has to stop. Like we need to get to a point in this country where we understand that an accusation is not evidence. Whether that accusation is coming from somebody who's filing a lawsuit, someone who's filing for a protective order, whether it's the state, frankly, filing a charge against somebody, that doesn't automatically mean guilt. It doesn't automatically mean responsibility. It doesn't automatically mean they're right. We have to get back to a point where we actually wait and listen and look for the evidence in a case before we just make up our minds. Unfortunately, we're at a point where nobody wants to do that anymore. And so, yeah, it ends up where the law is on somebody's side and it shouldn't be. Not that quickly. The law shouldn't be a shield. It shouldn't be a shield or a sword, frankly, in my opinion. It should just be neutral until the facts are out, and then you make your decision. Wolfbane for the $10 super chat. Thank you. He says, woke people. But Jane, you poor girl, you don't understand. Amber really is a victim. You're just a product of internalized misogyny. You need to wake up from the matrix and take the red pill. Isn't that what they say? That's what they say. It's always internalized. Internalized misogyny, internalized racism, internalized hatred. You hate yourself. Michael Beacom, hello, the $2 super chat. He says, you and ads complement each other so well. Oh, thank you. I agree. Now, Ron Ronald Salvi says, what if the jury is stupid? Well, I it's always a possibility that you'll get people who aren't so smart on the jury, but that's the point of jury selection. You know, it's the job of the attorneys to weed out the stupid people and try to get a jury of people who are open to listening to your point of view, who haven't made their mind up already. You know, you try to exclude as many people as you can from the jury who may be just closed-minded, who may be ignorant, who may have closely held beliefs that won't allow them to render a fair verdict or a verdict in favor of your client. I mean, that's why you take your time with jury selection and try to get to know who these potential jurors are. Because you never know what they'll do, but you have to try your best to sort it all out. It's like Beauty and the Beast. But I wish people would stop calling Jane a beast. I know, right? It's so unfair. Yeah, good point. Many times the public doesn't agree with the jury's decision because the public didn't read the jury instructions. That's true. That's true. But, sometimes the jury also doesn't follow the instructions. The instructions, oddly enough, are usually pretty uniform. They're pretty uniform. Well, not the world over, but the nation over, there are model jury instructions, so anybody can read them for the most part. They're not that different. Um, Josh Walker says, I don't care what the jury decides, public opinion matters more. I think for a celebrity, you're right. For a celebrity, that's absolutely the case. Public opinion is everything because is is either one of them going to be able to get work in Hollywood if the public is turned against them? And what was so interesting about this case was how was how what everybody was saying on Twitter somehow became the focus of the trial. That was hilarious to me that they actually had the audacity, that her team had the audacity and the lack of, I mean, they were so tone deaf in bringing to the jury what the public was saying. They never should have done. I think that was a mistake. To tell the jury that the general public hates her, that they think that she's a liar, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's like you're telling the jury that the general public thinks if they have any inclination that she's lying, you've basically told the jury that, yeah, the public agrees with you and reinforces that for them. Michael Beacon with a $5 super chat says, the problem is a real jury of their peers means there would be a bunch of drug abusers and narcissists. Well, you don't want to get that, but I mean, you may want a juror who has a history of substance abuse. You may want someone on the jury who has that past because they can understand perhaps what it's like to be abused in that situation, to be manipulated, um, to be in a relationship with someone else who is a drug abuser. Um, you never know. It depends on the facts of the case, but maybe you want that. Maybe you want someone on the jury who survived a narcissistic abuser or someone who was a narcissist and feels like they've, I don't know, recovered from that. Mr. Dark Ace says, I see Johnny having a possible chance of getting work. In fact, there's a rumor that Johnny may be in Beetlejuice too. I could see it happening since him and Tim Burton are close friends. And that's the other thing. That's a good point too. I think it's time. I think it's time for Johnny's friends in Hollywood to come out of the woodwork, come off of the sidelines, and help him out. Like this is what friends are for in this industry. Matt Damon, we've seen him constantly give all of his friends work. Like every movie they're in it's his movie that he's hired them all for. So why not? Why not? Johnny, your friends need to come through and help you with your comeback. You know, I would. If I were in Hollywood, if I owned a studio or had any type of influence, I would get him back to work. I mean, that's just it's so sad what's happened to him, but we've seen it before. We've seen it before. Oh my gosh. I think I heard this too, that RDJ is rumored to offer him a role in Sherlock Holmes 3, and I love the Sherlock Holmes series, so that would be amazing. That would be amazing. That would be the best comeback story. Oh, I hope they do that. I hope they do that. Wolfbane with a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says this conversation with woke people. Woke people, but Jade, how could you support JD? Amber's a woman. You should support your sister female. They always say that too. I've been getting that a lot, not only from the whole, but it's the woman. How can you? Women have to stick together. You know, that whole thing. But you see it too. You see it too when I criticize Obi-Wan Kenobi and what they've done with this Reva character, as someone pointed out. But she's a black woman. How can you be so critical? Because she's a bad character. I'm sorry. I didn't write her. I didn't do it. It's not my fault. But somehow I'm supposed to just accept it. I will not. I will not do it. The Time Prophet says Rafa does shout a lot. She does. She does. We're going to get to that in just a second. Josh Walker says, I think he took her to court. I think it was for his kids. He said that. He said at one point that he had to clear his name for his children. And that's the saddest part of these types of cases when someone is being falsely accused. It's not only that it's almost impossible to ever fully clear their name because the general public, there will always be people who just don't believe you. But your family will for probably forever be affected by it. They'll be affected by the victimization they saw you experience, but they'll also be affected by the accusations against you. So clearing your name is the only way. I mean, it and then especially after the British case where they found in favor of the tabloid, people just ignore that the law is completely different there. That the standard of proof is completely different, that the tabloids have a great advantage in the courtrooms over there. It's not the same. And I doubt the outcome would have been the same if that case had taken place in the United States. But, you know, luckily this case is here and he'll have an opportunity to have his voice heard and get a fair verdict based on our laws. And I think that at the end of the day, he's proved his case. Now, it was interesting. If y'all noticed, this is another thing about how the attorneys for Heard try to bait and switch, so to speak. In the beginning, one of the things they said was that that they were trying to excuse her description of domestic violence. Like I think everybody in the beginning was agreed that the case had to do with what she said happened, the accusations of physical and sexual violence, right? That in the article, in the title and in the substance of the article itself. But by the end, what they tried to say is if there was any evidence of any violence of any kind, then it's not defamation. And they tried to get one of their experts to claim that verbal abuse was domestic violence and therefore because there's been verbal abuse. She's been a victim. And so there's no defamation. Yay. Uh, but Depp's attorneys pulled that back and said, no, that's not why we're here. We're not here because she claimed she was yelled at. We're not here because she claimed that she suffered emotional abuse. We're here because she claimed she was a victim of physical and sexual violence. That's what that article portrayed. And if she can't prove that happened, if she can't prove that was true, then she loses. And it's as simple as that. And that's exactly the truth. That's how defamation works. You can't change what you said. She said what she said, and she's here because of what she said. And that was the other thing, too, that was really good about Camille's cross examination of her at the very end of this case. The fact that she got her to admit that not only was the article about him, but that she was, in fact, focusing in on the alleged sexual violence and the alleged physical violence, and that she was responsible for the content of the article. She wrote it. It wasn't these other people. Because again, at the beginning, she didn't really write it. Other people were responsible for the content. She just approved it, blah, blah, blah. All these other people were involved. No. At the end, Camille got her to take full credit for every single word. And it was beautiful. That was the best cross-examination I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of trials. I've observed a lot of jury trials. And it is amazing. It was amazing how well she destroyed her at every turn. And that's what she gets for being a liar. Let's see. I talk too much. Disney Star Wars is not canon. It says, so what if she's a woman? My ex-wife is a woman and she tried to run me over with my father's car. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that was a good line too. He spoke to us when he said she's to give us the performance of her life, and we saw it. I think Camille also said that too, or one of her attorneys talked about this was the performance of her life, and it wasn't even a great performance. She did a terrible job. She's not a great actor. We saw that during the trial. She's a terrible actress. And that's the thing too, like that's the most amazing part of it. Um, this is a woman who she is a narcissist, and I think that was why she couldn't pull it off, frankly. She's out of control. That's why she couldn't pull it off. But she would try. Like she would start off when she's being questioned, talking ever so faintly, and she can't get her words out, and it's so painful. It's so painful. And she's crying. She's crying, but with no tears. She's just weak. She can barely get it out. But then, when she saw she was being cornered and she was being dragged through the mud, then she would change. Her tone would change. She would sit up in her chair. She would become aggressive. And it's like, yeah, we see the real you. We see who you actually are. You can only fake it for so long. And a narcissist they will never allow themselves to actually be portrayed as a victim or as weak or as wrong. The worst thing you can do to them is put them in a corner. They will claw their way out. Tina says, I love how Heard's agent even testified that Amber couldn't cry. Well, what was most revealing? What was most revealing was a psychiatrist who talked about, I forget which one it was, but who talked about her condition, her mental health condition. And it talked about how she mirrors other people, and that explains why she kept dressing like other people during the trial. It's so bizarre. Um, but yeah, she can't cry. She can't do anything because she doesn't have. It's almost like she doesn't have consciousness. It's like she doesn't. It's something broken in this girl. She doesn't have empathy. She doesn't see, because that's the thing. When Johnny was testifying, it wasn't just that she was smirking at what he was saying when he would get emotional. she was laughing, like, she couldn't help herself. She couldn't hold back. Even when she wasn't on the stand, she couldn't hold it together, and her attorneys had no control. Her attorneys had no control over her. Like, they couldn't get her to stop. No client control whatsoever. 'Cause I would've been like, "Shut up. What are you doing? Take you know what? You're a drug addict. Take a drug before court. Calm down." They couldn't do it. Josh says, "I think most of what she said happened to her, she took from other sources, and it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first time." I think there was a friend of theirs who talked about her stealing her story. All she does is steal other people's things. Tina says histrionic personality disorder. Exactly, that was it. It's a fascinating diagnosis to study when it's not someone you love. Yeah. I mean, that personality type, I've read about it. There is no way I could deal with I can't even imagine what it must be like with someone like that in your life. I mean, it's bad enough if you're dealing with someone who has some other psychosis, but Jesus. Mark with the C says, "Was she really snorting on the stand?" That's what people were saying. I don't think she was snorting. I don't think it was that bad. I mean, I wouldn't put it past her, but I won't go that far. I think she was just trying to pretend she was crying. I think it's almost like she was trying to pretend to be human, and she wasn't pulling it off very well. Dr. Curry, that's who it was. Yeah. Great expert witness, by the way. Dr. Curry was outstanding. Outstanding. And that's the other thing too. It wasn't just like for people like Vanity Fair who are trying to reshape what happened. They can't ignore the fact that Johnny had better witnesses, not just people from the 90s, as Heard tried to say, but experts. He had better experts than she did. And for her to even describe these people as quote unquote coming out of the woodworks, coming out of the woodworks, these people from the 90s. Like she basically said, all these old people coming in on Johnny's behalf. I knew they were going to do it. They're all liars. They're all liars. They're all his friends. Well, you didn't have any friends. Where are your friends? Where are your people from the 2000s? Where are they? Kate Moss. M- Kate Moss came out of the woodworks, apparently, according to Amber Heard. And I'm like, are you serious? This lady is far more famous than you will ever be. She's one of the original supermodels. This woman is older than you by probably a decade and a half, and it looks much healthier, younger, more beautiful still to this day. Johnny is probably still in love with her. This is a woman who he shouldn't have left, to be honest. He shouldn't have left her because it seems like she probably still loves him too. Um, but you know how they do. They get super famous and leave. But this is it's remarkable. It's remarkable that she had the audacity to try to talk down um about Kate Moss of all people. But again, this is what you're dealing with. It struck a nerve with her, I think, seeing his ex on the stand and seeing how composed and honest she was and how she discredited Amber's foolishness about the stairwell. Wolfbane, which is $10 super chat, says Amber fake crying reminds me of that scene from Tales of the Hood where the guys like cut that out. Cut the. I agree. I agree. She would have been better off just not doing it. Just have a straight face. Just testify. Say what you have to say. You don't have to fake cry. Just tell the truth, but that would have been too hard. That would have been too hard. Diana says, whatever the outcome, I think Amber's acting career is over. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Josh says, funny how Amber thinks Kate Moss is on his payroll. Exactly. Kate Moss isn't on anybody's payroll. I'm pretty sure, I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure she has more money than both of them combined. I would be shocked if she doesn't, honestly. Good morning, awesome one. Tina says, I got addicted to watching Rakita Law stream the whole trial while working. It was fascinating. It is fascinating. And she did look like a boss. Psychos have no concept of right and wrong, only winning and losing matters. Exactly. Exactly. And when she felt she was losing, she lost it. She lost her mind. Felix said, to be fair, Kate Moss looked like she needed furniture. I don't know. Maybe she was in a hotel. I don't know. But yeah, maybe she's a minimalist, you know? I mean, I honestly, I think I if you saw me right now in my house, you'd think I need furniture. I don't like a ton of clutter. So, yeah, I'm on board with that. And OnlyFans. I wonder if she would even get any support on there. Who knows? Nate the Scot said she yelled that she wrote the op-ed a total of 3 times on closing day. She did. That's why I say that moment. God, when they make the movie about this trial, I can't wait. Because she did. That was such a dramatic moment. She was yelling, taking full credit for it, admitting that it was all about Johnny and that she needed to change public opinion about him. That's why she said what she said. And that was exactly what they needed her to say. I don't know what her attorneys told her after that, but I would have just, at that point, I would have just packed my stuff and left. I mean, what can you do? I was just like, you know what, don't even. I'm done. Call me when they have a verdict. Mark with the C says Amber's next chapter will be on reality TV. Mark my words. Bravo has probably already contacted her. Oh, I can definitely see that too. Yeah. Yeah. See, Josh, she wants us to believe her and is confused when we don't. That because that's how they are. That's how narcissists are. Their only worldview is their own. They cannot imagine anyone else having any different a perspective. I just really hate the double standard. Yeah. I'm glad Camilla pointed it out. Just still is so annoying. We're all the people crying about domestic abuse now. Well, that's right. Didn't happen to males. That's another interesting point too, because we are seeing more and more men coming forward talking about being victims of abuse. We're seeing actual victims of abuse come forward and say this she is not one. She's not one. And hopefully this will highlight that. Hopefully if there's anything to come out of this trial besides Johnny getting his life back, it's victims of domestic violence, including male victims, feeling like they really can come forward and people will believe them. And that they can do something. If their exes who were the abusers come forward and trash them and drag their name through the mud, you can do something. You can take these people to court. You know, people learn now. They know, they understand what defamation is and what that lawsuit is all about. And you don't have to just accept, even out of the context of domestic violence, you don't have to accept somebody lying about you. You can do something about it. You can take them to court. And you don't have to have a bunch of lawyers to do it. The fact that her legal team said what did they say? I think they said she had, I want to say $7 million in legal fees, but it was millions upon millions of dollars in legal fees. What? What what have you done with it? She should get her money back. If they charged her if they charged her $1,000,000+ in legal fees, she's been cheated, I'm sorry. I don't even like her, and I'll tell you, she's been cheated. Oh my god. They did not do $7,000,000 worth of work. The experts were terrible, so the money didn't go there. They didn't track down any good witnesses for her to come to court and testify, so they didn't do anything there. And their arguments weren't that great. Their examination wasn't that great. Their cross-examination wasn't that great. They didn't prep her well. They clearly didn't dress her. I mean, for that kind of money, she should have been perfectly crafted for court. Like, the entire event, it should have been curated from the beginning to the end, and they didn't do that, clearly. They let her run amok. It's just, oh, I don't know what they did with that money. Seven $7,000,000 prize with $7 effort, exactly. Oh my god, Josh. Oh my god. Nate said they tried and they couldn't find anyone willing to help her out. Oh my god. That is so sad. That is so sad. You know you have to be terrible. You have to be terrible when you can't find anybody to speak on your behalf. Tina says Rakita mentioned something about making the mistake of lawyer shopping to find a team that followed her plan. Exactly. Exactly. You here's the thing. Here's the thing. You and this applies across the board in any context, okay? When you talk to lawyers, you should want them to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. If they tell you you don't have a case and you talk to another one to get a second opinion and they're like, "No, you don't have a case," then maybe you don't have a case. But being a narcissist, it seems like she just went out and found any lawyers who would take her money and tell her what she wanted to hear. And they did that. I guess in that sense, they did their job. They got paid because she wanted to pay somebody. She wanted to throw her money away to get somebody to say what she wanted them to say. She did that. She's probably gonna lose. Um, and if she loses, she's probably gonna be responsible for not only her own attorney's fees, but his as well. Um, Not to mention the cost of court. And that's on top of the damages he suffered that the jury may award. It's not worth, I mean, ma'am. Thank you, Nikki, for the $5 super sticker. A little pair. Says keep it up. Thank you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Good night, Mr. Grant Gregory. Have fun. Have a fun sleep. Elon will pay it. I hope not. I hope not. I hope Elon doesn't do that because you don't want to indulge this craziness. Like it's gonna make it worse. It's gonna make it worse. She should pay the jury. Oh my god. Gordon says she pledged the attorney fees. That conversation. How many of you saw that? The conversation about the money she was supposed to pay the charity. And Camille absolutely destroyed her on that point because she actually had the audacity to say that pledging money and giving it, paying it, to her are the same thing. Ma'am, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I use pledge and donate synonymously. Miss Heard, I don't. I don't use them synonymously. That was beautiful. No one does, as a matter of fact. because they're not the same thing. They're not the same word. You can't spend a pledge. I mean, this was for a charity, for kids. Like we can't feed the children or buy the children what they need with the pledge. We can't pay the rent or the utilities with the pledge. I probably would have kept going, but I think Camille did well. She I don't even know what the jury I would love to have seen the jury's faces in that moment. Jane says, I feel sorry for her witnesses too. So do I. So do I. Because what could you say? Her sister testified, and she was a terrible witness for her. All of her witnesses were just so bad. Man, like what do you her lawyers just I think they railroaded her. Nate the Scott says lying about donating money to sick kids is pretty standard for someone who would lie about years of abuse and then claim their victim was the abuser. Absolutely gross. Had to happen to me. That's terrible. Jonathan says, if aliens were monitoring us and deciding if they were going to land, I'm sure the trial and our fascination drove them away. Probably. Probably. Makani, hello. Wolfbane with the $10 super chat. Thank you. Hopper, are you trying to tell me I'm stupid? Do I look stupid to you? Let's just think about the logic here, shall we? Let's just think about it for a second, Amber. There was no logic. There was no logic in the trial. There was no logic in her testimony. Oh my God, driver's seat says. And the manosphere is encouraging men in their late 40s to marry 22-year-olds. It's just, I mean, I think you should rethink it. The thing about, I think, especially for older people, if you're thinking about getting married, maybe get to know the person. And the problem with someone 20 is that they were just a child like 2 days ago. You don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about themselves. Their brain isn't even fully formed yet. There's danger. There's danger, Will Robinson. Just try to, I don't know, get somebody closer to your age who has a life, who has some experience behind them, who has a record that you can look at and establish some understanding of who they are. But don't just, a 20-year-old doesn't have anything. And you may say, okay, well, that's great. They're a blank slate, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. You just don't know who they are, what they're going to turn into. Disney Star Wars is not canon. It says marriage is a scam if you're a man. Don't. Ah, that's not true. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. You just have to. You just have to not be with a crazy person. Just take your time. I think the reason why there's so many divorces these days and so much abuse, frankly, and emotional abuse, emotional damage, is because people don't get to know one another anymore. They don't take the time. And then even when they do and they get in a relationship, there's so many people who are just narcissists. Like our society is so full of people who don't really care about anyone but themselves. They're not willing to sacrifice for anyone else. They're not willing to, at least from a Christian perspective, serve anyone else. It's all about them. Their whole world is about them. And that's the problem with the quote unquote manosphere. And it's a problem with the womanosphere, the woman side of it, the counterpart, the female counterpart. They do the same thing. Every message is about themselves. It's not about finding somebody you have a relationship with. Because the thing with Johnny is that it does seem like in all of his prior relationships, he was with good women, one after the next, who still to this day clearly love him. All of them had his back. But he settled on a complete nutcase. And I mean, how many of you guys do that? How many of y'all do that? But really, women do it too. We do it too. So it's about taking your time and finding the person for you. But I definitely think, I hate that people are using this as an example of why you don't get married. Because the reality is his last marriage probably would have been fine. Like I said, it seems like that woman and all of them still love him. Gordon says marriage is work every day, not just a ceremony and a honeymoon and happily ever after. Exactly. But people don't see that. Yeah. But people were a lot older back then. Like not older, but like people were more mature in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s. And I do think that there's like some mental health issues going on in the country right now. And I'm sure social media has a lot to do with it. You know, Velo, you're right. Oops, did I miss a super chat? Let me go back up. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Hello, Vic Rattlehead. In Thank you for the $100 super chat. And I don't know the currency, but thank you. He says she was planning to give to charity whose trust had the initials AH as soon as the check cleared for Aquaman 2. Right, exactly. Exactly. She had plans to donate the money. She just never got around to it. And she tried to use the lawsuit as like her excuse, like, oh, but I had to go pay for attorneys and blah blah blah. No, ma'am, you had like a year and a half or so to pay it, and you didn't. He gave you the money to pay it, and you didn't. So no, you hadn't paid anything. Just lying. And the Time Prophet says, I'm working hard on my animation, and then Jane came along. Oh well. Mark says, I like 80-year-olds, very cooperative and open-minded. Wait, you like 80-year-olds? What? To like date? What? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I disagree with you, Bethesda's lore about the living together. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. I think you date. First of all, I don't think it takes years to date. I think you know pretty if you take the time to be friends first, I think you know pretty quickly whether you like the person, whether you're compatible. I don't agree with dating for years. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. And I definitely don't agree with shacking up. I don't agree with shacking up because it's not going to change anything. And studies have shown that doesn't affect divorce rates whatsoever. People just need to make better decisions. But not everybody believes in shacking up and all that and hooking up and all before they get married. I know I don't. I'm not doing any of that. I think it's important to have boundaries, be friends, get to know each other, like each other, and then decide if you want to get married. And then when you get married, take your commitment seriously. Can we do that these days, people? Can we take marriage vows seriously? If and when I do get married, that's it. I'm not getting a divorce. It's it. It's in it for life. I don't have time. Like this dude, I don't even know how people deal with the drama. That's another thing. This is my advice for guys, since we're throwing out marriage advice for guys. Here's my advice to guys. Drama isn't cute. Drama isn't cute. The girl who's constantly dramatic and it's always a fight, like, stop it. Y'all have a thing for that. Don't. Let it go. Peace is much better, honestly. As you get old, when you're young, that may be fun. It may be hot when you're in your 20s for your girlfriend to be crazy, but when you're older, it's not. Chill. Let it go. When you get ready to get married, think about somebody who's a little bit calmer, a little more peaceful. I agree that the gender ideology has a lot to do with it too, Velo. I don't like that you have a lot of women, and this is why I talk on my channel. For those who are new here, on my channel, I talk a lot about how Hollywood is trying to shape gender norms and change them. Um, I will be the first to tell you, I'm I'm more of a traditional girl. Like, I'm not the strong well, I'm not trying to do everything. I have no desire for that whatsoever. And don't get me wrong, I have an education. I don't know how many degrees, like, I've lost count, you know? I have a good job, I have my own place, I own land. I have all that, but I will tell you this, um, I'm not trying to lead anything. I'm not trying to wear the pants in the family. I'm not down with the whole equality thing. If that's what it means, if it means being the man in the relationship or even, like, equal to, no, I'm good. I'm good on all of that. That is not my cup of tea. It's nothing wrong with being independent, don't get me wrong, but in a relationship, that is not what I'm going for. That is not my testimony. So I'm not a modern feminist. I'm not a modern feminist. Exactly, as equality means working together, respecting each other. That's it, though. I'm not trying to be on par with them. And we're not going to both be leading. We can't both do that. I'm too tired. I'm not doing it. I have other things to do. Mark with the C says, unfortunately, people like drama. Our pop culture is built on it. You're right. Contentment is boring. Nothing is worth more than peace of mind, communication, and teamwork. There you go. There you go. See, these are lessons. These are lessons learned. These are lessons that need to be passed on. Let's see. Critical thinking. People, oops, did I miss a super chat? Oh my gosh. Vic Rattlehead in with a $100 super chat says, any thoughts on waiting till marriage? Is that too old fashioned of me? I'm agnostic conservative. I think that is ideal. I don't think that's too old fashioned at all. I think that's perfect, as a matter of fact. I agree with you. Because here's the thing. We've grown up in a society, especially people who are like millennials, and younger, Gen Z, have grown up in a society where everything is rushed. And that's why I don't like, and I think Az and I talked about this in one of the Naomi streams. I don't like that so much is rushed in entertainment. They're telling kids, they want to tell little kids about sex. They want to push this imagery about young teenagers and teenagers being sexually active or hyper sexually obsessed. And they may be emotionally, but not necessarily physically, like they may be curious and into the idea, but I feel like society is sort of rushing. They started by rushing teenagers into sex, and now they're rushing little kids into it. And it's like, Even adults aren't ready for sex half the time. Like, what are you talking about? The emotional damage that can come from that when you get so close to somebody who you these days barely even know, have no real concept of who you are or what you want or who they are or what they want. And now you've rushed into this relationship and you've advanced it to that level and now you're broken up and now what? Now what? So you had sex with this person. Now don't get me wrong. I know there's some people who don't tie together emotion and sexuality and that's them. I think that may be the result of damage. But some people like it's probably not a good idea to just have sex with, anybody or whoever you're dating at the time. Sometimes it may be better to wait, especially if you're one of those people who you know that you're going to be emotionally it's going to have a lingering effect on you. It's going to make you more emotionally attached to the person you're with, and you don't want to do that until it's a person you're going to be with forever. But that's my perspective though. I don't like the fact that sex has been sort of divested from real relationships or long-term relationships in marriage and things like that. I think it's made it cheap and superficial. Um, and that's kind of sad. It's kind of sad actually. I think in some ways too, I think people use it to try to get close to people who they aren't really that close to. They think that will bond them more. Um, and it's not. It's not. Let's see. Who else is here? Oh, wait, another super chat. Wolfbane, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, of course, Jane, people back in the 60s were more mature because they were worried about nuclear death. Didn't have time to worry about petty things. So people really had to mature and grow up. Yeah. Well, they had to worry about, war. They had to worry about real, like, civil rights issues. Um, they had to worry about taking care of their families, working. And I agree with you. Waiting until marriage is objectively the best course of action, but people let their passions get the better of them. Yeah. And I think too, people are often longing for a connection, and they feel like that's the only way to get it. Only if it doesn't work out, then again, you're left by yourself. You're left alone, and now you have that connection. And the other problem too with just treating sex so casually is that you end up what about when you do find that person who you connect with on a deeper level, on an emotional level, somebody you're really good with, your person, so to speak. Now you're judging them against all these other people you've been with. Like, is that not weird? Like, I feel that's weird. I feel it's weird for the person you're with, and I feel it's unfair to them, kind of. G Man with a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says you need to find someone who's a worse person than yourself. That way you can claim moral superiority. Whenever there's an argument, oh my God. What's so crazy is I think people do that. Hey, Rogue Disney. I think people do that on occasion. People in the 60s married kids. Let's not get too old fashioned. Well, yeah, my grandparents got married really young. They did. But again, people didn't live long either. People live a lot longer today. Winning an argument. Rogue Disney says, I think some people have issues with emotional intimacy, so they go for physical instead. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And it's so simple. You if it's just about sex, that you can cut past actually getting to know each other. You can cut past deciding if this is a person you even want to be friends with, let alone in a relationship with. You can get past the work of seeing how you are together when you disagree. of commitment. It's like they wanna fast track something when they do that, and it's not worth it ultimately, and we see that. We see that. Stay away from high intensity relationships. Man, is that not good advice. That is good advice. And maybe that's the type of advice Johnny should have received and listened to because from what we heard of their relationship, he was in a high intensity relationship from the beginning, right? From the very beginning, she was very young, but also very crazy. It was really intense from the beginning. Vic says you need a person who is smarter than you so that their input is respected and they can keep you grounded. I agree. Probably that's the most important thing is to be with someone you respect, someone you trust, someone you respect, someone you feel safe with, someone who you kind of look up to a little bit. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Driver's seat says, "Why is everyone ignoring the fact that she's gay?" Oh my god. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's a point too. See, but that's the thing. I think Johnny may have thought that was exciting. You know how y'all men are. He probably thought that's gonna be fun. He probably thought that was a bonus. He thought that was a plus. But, it turned out not to be. Turned out to be great. He should have talked to her ex. Oh, Alphonse says, the problem is lust can be confused with love at the beginning of a relationship. You're right. You are right. It can. Um, and that's why you have to take your time and see, like, is there anything else about this person you like besides how they look? You know? Is there something more there? Is there something there, right? As says she goes straight for someone with over 600 million. Yeah. But that's the thing, like he had dated he had dated his equal with Kate Moss, and I think there was another actress in there, so I can't remember their names. And he dated regular people, and he had good relationships with both. Like it was her, and he should have seen that. But I don't think he did because he didn't have there was no history there. Like when they started dating, she was so young. What signs could he even have about what she was about or what she was looking for? Or I don't even imagine they could have a conversation about what her expectations were. You know, I don't know. And she had nothing. He knew that. he knew he knew she brought nothing to the table financially, but he may not have cared. I think the problem is that she very well was probably looking for someone to up her career. She was looking to marry somebody with money. He clearly didn't care that she was looking to marry somebody with money and that she wanted to up her career. He probably wanted a little girl, somebody a little hot, little 20-year-old, someone who he thought was a blank slate. But it didn't work out because she had no substance. He probably didn't mind that she wanted to be, I guess, taken care of. He was probably fine with doing that because he had the money. But he didn't realize she was a nutcase. And he didn't realize that because he didn't take the time to either he didn't take the time to get to know her or he ignored the signs. And it sounds like from what we heard of the testimony concerning their relationship, he ignored the signs. Oh my God, some of these comments I can't highlight. I cannot highlight some of these comments, y'all. Oh my God. Y'all are killing me. Oh my God, let me scroll down to some comments I can actually highlight. Amber brought nothing to the table except a stripper pole. Did she even do that? Did she even at the very least do that? That would have been something. I don't even think she did. I don't think she did that. Somebody said she should have bought plastic sheets. Oh my God. And you're right, Nate. The reason they were together was because of drugs. I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, it seemed like their relationship was so toxic because they were both drug addicts. And that is what kept them together. Their drug addiction and their drug addicted friends in their circle. And that's also what's so insulting like about this whole thing. Her testimony about the drugs. Y'all remember that? She talked about how she used MDMA and how it was a love drug. Let me tell you, MDMA is a drug that, at least in Louisiana, is a Schedule II drug. It's a felony. Like, if you get caught with MDMA, you're going, there's a high possibility, unless you're a first offender, there's a high possibility that you're going to jail. And she's just sitting up here casually bragging about taking this drug with her friends. It's no big deal. It's a love drug. Trying to minimize the impact of it. And then she talks about his use of cocaine, and suddenly he's the worst person in the world. It's so low of him. It's beneath her to use cocaine. I'm like, ma'am, it's the same. You're a drug addict. It's not one drug is better than another. What are you talking about? MDMA is not a light drug. It's insane to look down your nose at Johnny like you're not a drug addict. Like, please, let's not do this. She used coke too, I believe you. He was sober. Well, and that's another thing too. I think that that's another thing to sort of get back to the conversation about relationships. You want somebody who makes you better, right? You don't want someone who is going to indulge in your vices, indulge in your foolishness. Like, if you're trying to stay clean, they should be on board with helping you stay clean. Like, you're not going to do drugs. You do drugs, I'm leaving, right? Not somebody who's like, no, you want to do drugs now? You want to fall off the wagon? Let's fall off together. You don't want somebody who's going to encourage you. You want someone who's going to uplift you and who you can uplift. Like, that's the hope. In fact, not even just a dating relationship, your friends. Your friends should be supportive of your healing. They shouldn't be dragging you back into the mud, into the muck. I agree with you. She leached on him. And what's so crazy is that, and again, narcissists don't care about this, by the way. They do not care, but the wealth he had, he would have given to her freely. The influence, the power, the connections he had, he would have given to her freely. All he wanted in exchange, and he was looking in the wrong place. But I get the sense that all he wanted in exchange was love and companionship. That's it. Maybe a little fun because he married somebody who was a little wild, a little wild. Um, but not, he didn't deserve to be abused, you know? No one does. And unfortunately, he didn't have friends to step in and say this girl is not right for you. He didn't have friends to step. Maybe he did. Maybe none of that came out, but somebody should have said, "Look, you got to get out." And I'm happy he got out as soon as he did, because it could have went on for a lot longer. You know, their marriage didn't last very long, but their relationship did. He should have gotten out a lot sooner. And what's so bad about it is that, as I said before, his past relationships seem to be decent. It was him who seems to have been at fault in terms of his addiction and what he was struggling with. But the love and affection these women had for him and that he had for them seems to still exist, like, to this day. And he should have just learned from that and just dealt with his addiction before jumping into a new relationship. And certainly, if he was going to jump into a new relationship, he should have done it with someone a bit more stable, someone who didn't do drugs at all. Tina says, I was sad to learn that neither her nor Depp will be present for the verdict. Wow, I hadn't heard that. That is so. I would want to be present. I think I would want to be there. I would want to see the jurors' faces when they told me if they believed me or not. Matthew Spades. I hope I said that properly. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Had a bipolar ex just like her. She was narcissistic and she would fake cry just like Amber. It's crazy the flashbacks I had watching the trial. JD is better off no matter what happens now. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And I'm sure a lot of people went through that. Anybody who's ever dated a narcissist watching this trial, like, I know it brought you back to that moment. Like, I know it did. Because you can see it. Like, it's everything she did was just classic narcissism, even on the stand. By the time, Prophet, see you next time. Depp left for a tour in Europe with his band. Okay. You don't recall what Heard is doing this week, crying in a corner. Oh, then again, she may be convinced that she has it in the bag. Who knows? She probably thinks she can still get him back. And what's sad is that if he hasn't truly broken from her, like if he hasn't really truly moved on, she could. She could. I mean, that's just how big of a draw they often have, how strong of a hold they can have on you. No, they don't have to be there. It's a civil trial, so in civil cases, you're not obligated to be there. Their attorneys will likely just waive their presence and accept the verdict. Uh, Emo Cheetero says, I don't think stable non-druggies wanted to be with him. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think he could have found a good woman somewhere. He could have found one. They're out there still. There are a few of us left. Wait, Nate the Scott says, honestly, the biggest travesty in all of this is that we could have had some actual actress in the Aquaman series get a career instead of her using her connection. You're right. We could have got a good actress with talent. and not just dating a guy with connections. Yeah, he should tell her to go to hell. But I love the fact that he held his promise that he wasn't gonna look at her. He said she would never see his eyes again, and he meant that. He meant that. And she had the nerve during their testimony to say, "Well, he can't look at me." It's like, "No, he said he was never going to look at you again, and he meant it." That was beautiful. That was a wonderful cross too. What if any assets does Amber have to offer? None. None. The only thing she has to offer is a court case, a restraining order. I agree with you, Cynthia. She made up all these accusations because she's hurt. He finally had the balls to leave. Nate says, I don't know. People say that Amber is extremely beautiful, but I've never seen it, to be honest. She just looks like a million other models and actresses. I I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that. I mean, she's not ugly. I always felt like she was average. But, you know, whatever. What do I know? I think it's maybe because she's blonde. Like, you know how guys are with blondes. She's blonde, so she's automatically beautiful. But I mean, and especially in the trial, she comes across. I mean, there are certain um, shots of her where when that narcissist in her comes out, the sort of very evil, dark side of her, she looks terrifying. She looks terrifying when she's being all smug and arrogant and just there's nothing attractive about that when she's that way. Nothing at all. And being that evil and vindictive ages you. That's the other thing I don't think she understands. You're not going to be able to treat people like trash and be abusive to them without it taking a little bit of you away, without it eating away at you as well. And that's what we see happening with her and other people like her. They never come out of it, no matter how beautiful they are. They never come out of it looking that way because it makes them, it ages them, it makes them look just as cruel on the outside as they are on the inside. David Hall. David Hall. Oh my god. You are killing me. Tim says he likes brunettes. Get your brunette. She's ugly on the inside. Yeah. She does look fake. She has she has Zuckerberg's face when out on the stand. Yeah, I wouldn't have recognized her from any other woman. That's a good saying too, upside down. Pretty as pretty does, but ugly's to the bone. An ugly personality, an ugly attitude. I don't care how beautiful you are. It's not. No one's gonna want to be around that for very long. That was a good point too, Wasted. She kept forgetting to look sad when she was off the stand. It's like she forgot that the cameras could still see her when she was sitting down. I wonder if she knew. She may have thought that the cameras were just focused on the stand or just focused on the attorneys, but she had to have known better because even if you ignore the cameras, the jury's watching you. So aren't you paying it? Like You want to keep up the illusion if the jury's paying attention to you, right? You can't pretend for a full day. You can't act for a good 8 hours. What is going on? Nate said, nah, she knew. That's why she pretended to write notes. It was so bad. Driver's seat says, in the past, black men were lynched for looking at women like Amber. Remember Emmett Till? You're right. False accusations got men killed left and right. Left and right. That's why you have to take it so seriously. That's why you have to take it so seriously. Alphonse, you're absolutely right too. Everybody ages. Everybody gets old. Things can happen. Beauty doesn't last forever. Oh my God, these comments. David. Oh my God. I cannot. Y'all know I can't highlight that stuff. Rocket, I like that. I like that. A woman's looks and appearance are secondary to her enthusiasm. I think that's good too. Be with someone who's excited to see you. Driver's seat. Oh, I shouldn't have highlighted that. She absolutely thought he would never stand up for himself. But as she said on her audio, not only did she think that he wouldn't stand up for himself, she thought no one would believe him. And that's the important takeaway. She thought no one would believe him. And when they played that for the jury, I applauded. I applauded. Cut. Anna says her biggest role was in this trial, playing the victim of domestic abuse. She will be remembered for this one only. How sad is that for an actor? Exactly. Exactly. But okay, guys, oh my God, we've been talking for like 2 hours about this crazy woman. Let's move on to our final topic. Our final topic, a little bit more depressing. And we'll knock this out real quick. Hey, Jacob Ironside. One more topic. The mega pints. Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, we have to talk about Kenobi real quick. We talked about it a little bit earlier. We kind of talked about it first, actually, which is kind of funny. Obi suck. Obi getting neutered in his own show. Oh my God. I'm so disturbed. I'm so disturbed by the show because I think you're right. It's 100% predictable in light of everything we've seen coming out of Disney lately. But my biggest problem is that why do they have to constantly target and destroy these characters? Like, I don't understand why they choose to do it. You're making a complete fool out of Kenobi. You're making a mockery out of his sacrifice. His staying and watching over Luke and not going on any adventures, not doing anything really with Leia or chasing after Inquisitors or getting chased by them, all this other foolishness. That was a sacrifice on his part. That was the whole point. He put his life second to Luke's because Luke was more important. But no, they said, "No, we're gonna throw all that away. We're gonna toss all that out. We don't need any of that. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have Obi-Wan fail at his one job, the one job he had this entire time, but he's gonna fail at that. We're gonna send him away to who knows where. We don't even know where he's going at this point. Chasing after an 8-year-old girl who we're gonna pretend is 10, getting chased by some random inquisitor who has more information about him and about Anakin than she should have and still be alive. And we're going to leave Luke to his own devices because who cares? It's not about the boy. It's not about the boy. And if people don't like it, they're racist. They're a racist. They're racist. Have you guys seen this show? Hey, Justin Army. Yeah, I just took a break from Twitter. Have you guys seen the show? Yeah, it's the Leia and Reva show. Woo! Why would they have Leia kidnapped? Can anyone explain that to me? Why would that work? Exactly. Why wouldn't they having basically an entire planet at your disposal? Why wouldn't you just send out an alert like she's been kidnapped, she's missing? Do what you would normally do. Why do you have to go contact Obi-Wan? He's not a magician. Like, I don't understand. He has a job. He has a very important job that he's doing. You have options. Like, this makes no sense. But they have to pull him away from the planet. That's the only way. Because KK hates straight white male. Yeah, you can't be a hero anymore. Sorry. Oh my God. I did a video recently that's blowing up actually, talking about Moses Ingram and what she was told by Disney executives. Because apparently they told her that she was going to face racist trolls, racist Star Wars fans, these toxic fans who are going to hate her. They're going to hate her because she's a Black woman entering the franchise. Now, my disappointment is not with Disney because we know, I mean, we fully expected them to do that. We expected that. My disappointment is with her falling for it and then reiterating that line because it's not like John Boyega told you this. It would be different if they did an interview with her and she was like, "Hey, John talked to me," and he was like, "Look, um, when I got cast, I dealt with some racist fans, not the majority of fans, but I dealt with some of it. And you may have to deal with some of that too, because, it is the public, it's whatever." That's not what happened though. John would probably have told her about Lucasfilm. He probably would have told her about how they treated his character and the racism he dealt with the very executives that told her this. But she didn't go talk to John. She didn't go talk to any of the other quote unquote people of color actors who worked on Star Wars to get their perspective because they probably all would have told her something very different. That is not the fans you have to worry about. It's not the fans. It's these very people who wrote the script. And they're going to sacrifice you for their terrible show. Their purpose is to destroy Star Wars as we know it, and they're going to use you as cover to do it. That's what somebody should have told her. But she didn't know. She didn't know. She didn't realize it. Maybe she's not a fan and she's not familiar. I don't know. But she should have done her homework before saying something so crazy, so out of touch, so tone deaf, and allowing herself to be used by them. Because we're still going to criticize it. I mean, we're still going to be critical of a show and what they're doing. Let me just say this too before we get into it. I'm not one of those people who's like, I'm not a lore purist. I fully expect every time for something to change. I'm fine with that. I'm open to it as long as they do it well. As long as they respect the original characters, I'm okay with them taking some creative freedom. But what they're doing here is the exact opposite of that, and it's been a pattern. This series so far has been almost scene for scene giving us Jake Skywalker vibes. Almost scene for scene. And no one seems to want to acknowledge that. Even people critical of it aren't necessarily making those connections. But that's when I first saw it, even in the trailer, that's the feeling I got. That this is basically the sequel trilogy all over again. And people are letting it go like it's no big deal, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal that this is what they're doing to these characters. They're regressing all of them by destroying their stories, but just destroying their personalities. They're not even who they are. I don't know who this is. This is not the Ben Kenobi we know. I don't know who this is. And then you introduce these new characters who we're supposed to like just because, even though I don't even know. I don't know that they want us to like them. I can't stand Reva. And not because she couldn't be good. She could have been good. She could have been like the Grand Inquisitor. You know, again, back in our review, as talked about this, she could have been menacing. She could have been very deliberate in her actions, shown some level of intelligence. She's not very Inquisitor like. She's running around like a child. She's basically, they did to her kind of like what they did with Kylo Ren, made him a joke of a character. Why? Well, we know why. They did it to him because they don't like straight white male characters. And they're doing it to her because, frankly, they don't like black characters either. So they don't care. They're not going to invest the time and the energy to do anything with them. If she were gay, maybe. I don't know. But it's terrible. Disney just sucks. That's pretty much the long and short of it. Yeah, asking her age. But they didn't even bother to cast a 10-year-old child. That's what's so crazy about it, too. It's like, you do know that we know that she's not 10, right? Have you seen this child? Have you seen children? Do you know what children look like? What are the chances Baby Yoda will show up? I'm sure. Hey, let's get to 200 likes. Yes, 200 like hype. That's right. It's not canon. Not to me. Moses thought she was a man. The way she talks sounded like a bad Batman interpretation. It does. That's a good, yes. It does. It's like she's artificially lowering her voice or deepening her voice. And then she's walking all weird like a guy, like she's trying to make herself look bigger. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. Oops, a super chat. Let's see. Matthew Spates again. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says they are doing it to show Luke was not as special as Leia. No one is supposed to know Darth Vader is Anakin. Canon destroying. Watch this Spurs review. Absolutely. But that's the thing. Like, even if somehow she knew, Vader would have killed her. She would be dead. Like if there's I don't know how she would know. But let's say she was able to sense it somehow. He would have killed her. He would have known that she knew, right? And he would have killed her. So it doesn't make any sense. The Hulk says, I don't blame the actress that plays Reva per se. I blame the writers and the person directing her. You have to realize she's doing what they hired her to do and paying her for it. You're right. I think they instructed her very narrowly though. Like I think they instructed her to yell, to sound hard and angry and out of control, but that goes against her training. You know, it's like you can't tell us one thing about her and then have her act somewhat different, or so dramatically different. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're telling us she's been trained as a Jedi and she's been trained by the Sith, I would expect someone who has total control. You know, I would expect someone who's dark and menacing and incredibly intelligent and who's mastered the Force. Absolutely. But I wouldn't expect someone who's just floundering, who's just doing random stupid things for no reason, just pulling out her lightsaber and just holding it to people's necks randomly. threatening people, the Inquisitor having to constantly correct her, talking down to her. It just looks haphazard. Like, what are you people? All of you should be fired. You're not very effective. Right. Reva somehow found out a way to lure him out. No one else could. She's the bestest ever. Yes, I'm alive, Fats. Yeah, her anger is clouding her idea. What is she angry about? See you later, Rocket Man. Thanks for joining us. What is she mad about? Okay, even if she's upset, because this is what they're gonna say, I guess. They're gonna say that she was one of the kids who was attacked in the school shooting, basically. Okay, so she's one of those kids that came after her. She was scared. She was abandoned. She was alone. Blah blah blah. She had to find her way in the world. Why would she be mad at Obi-Wan? Last I checked, and I could be wrong, but last I checked, all of the Jedi were under attack. All of them were fighting for their lives or in hiding. Why would she be so extra mad at him? It doesn't make any sense. The only way she would know that he would be particularly significant is if she knows his connection to Anakin, which it's suggesting that she does. But how would she know that? And why would he allow her to live with that knowledge? These are questions. These are questions we're not supposed to ask. Upside down, says Rafe. So, what's my inspiration for the scene and why? Don't ask questions. Kryptonian Jedi, hello. The $5 super chat, thank you. He says, how did Senator Organa know where Obi-Wan lived? Your guess is as good as mine. And why would he contact him? Not only, here's the thing, not only did he know where he was, the lost Jedi found him. Like, everybody suddenly knows where Obi-Wan is. Obi-Wan told everyone, it's like, here I am. I'm supposed to be in hiding, protecting Luke, but here I am for everyone to find. Old friends and new and enemies. Don't worry. I'm right here. This is insane, y'all. It didn't matter anymore. He didn't care. He wanted some excitement. He was tired of being a butcher. So he was just like, I'm here. I'm here. Hey, Capsule. Cross Purposes with a $2 Canadian super chat. Thank you. The little puppy, the number 1. Yay. Thank you. The Hulk says, I didn't mind them making Reva a badass, super tough villain, blah, blah. I just would have appreciated high IQ storytelling with her and more intellect with the Reva character. Yeah, she could have been cool. She could have been cool. I mean, they could have gone in one of two directions. They could have made her exceptional, but doing her job. Or they could have made her reckless, but maybe in training. Because that's the thing. Like, her behavior would be more explainable if she were being trained. Like, this was part of a training routine or something. I don't know. But they don't suggest that. She was badly written to be hated. You're probably right. The desert doesn't have any places to hide. Being abused by the yeah. Oh, they could not let her have character building. No, not at all. She had to be perfect. The only thing that's gonna come out of this for her character is that she was good all along. She was always good. She was always the best. She was always powerful. She was always everything. She always had all the answers. That's the only thing to come out of this. Weeva Goldberg, hello, with a $2 Canadian super chat. Thank you. I tried my best to make those parkour legit, Right. Oh my god. That's what's so funny though. That was the worst choreography. They had her bouncing off of walls and stuff, but at the end, when the ship's flying away, she couldn't jump onto it. Why not? Why couldn't you just jump onto it? You could have. We've seen that. We've seen Skywalker do exactly that in Rebels. You can't do that. You're the best. Nate the Scott with a £10 super chat. Thank you. He says it's impossible to get high IQ stories anymore because no current Lucas Story Group writers have an IQ over 90. I think you're being generous. I think you're being very generous. Let's see. Y'all are killing me. Yeah, that was the other thing about this show. The pacing was terrible. It was so boring. Like, the only thing we're really able to talk about are the couple of things that they got really wrong or that we had questions about, but those were also the only things that happened in the show. The rest of it was just boring, nothing. The pacing was terrible because there was no substance, or there was a great deal of repetition. And yeah, what they did to Leia was a crime. A crime. They have this 8-year-old running through the forest and nobody can catch her. Like, she's this big. People are running into branches. They're tripping. They're tripping trying to catch this child. What are you doing? What are you doing? Makes no sense. But again, we can't criticize any of that. Yeah, because Nate the Scott, the Force is female. She runs like a duck. Y'all will not talk about that child. No. She runs like a baby because she is a baby. That's why it didn't make any sense that they couldn't catch her. Oh my god. It was so cartoonish. And that's the other problem. They didn't know what they wanted to be. The show did it. On the one hand, it tried to take itself too seriously, and on the other hand, it had all of these scenes that were supposed to be comic relief, but just came across as goofy and ill-placed. Yeah, exactly. The baby's sweet. She's a cute little girl, but the character is annoying. I mean, how many people just wanted her to fall off of the building? She was annoying. I couldn't do it. Oh my god. They probably will. uh, okay, now this is yeah. CSS says, I felt for McGregor, great actor trying to make lemonade out of lemons. This is the problem I have with the show, probably most of all, and we'll sort of end it here. Um, to bring back these actors and these characters, it's the sequel trilogy all over again. It's like I really respect them. I love the characters. Um, the actors are amazing. They're incredibly talented. But for them to be brought back in a show that is so terribly written, so terribly shot, and that's intended to do nothing, not add to the Star Wars lore, but to just further degrade it and destroy it. It's embarrassing for them, but it's incredibly sad. And not just for fans, but Hayden didn't deserve this, you know? And I hope as people are critical of the show that they do keep that in mind. Like, these actors are great. They're doing their best. Um, but the show is trash and they deserve better. And the fans deserve better. And it's unfortunate that they have writers who could care less, and a studio that could care less, and a company like Disney that this is nothing. This is but a blip. I mean, they're dropping trailers every day, it seems like, for new trash they want us to watch. And they don't care about the actors, they don't care about the characters other than trying to replace them with their own. Um, and it's just unfortunate. It's really quite unfortunate and sad. Yeah, the best part has been seeing them again, but is he gonna get praised? I mean, he's gonna do his best job, I'm sure, and he should get praised for what effort he puts into it. But it's just, it's just sad. Pizza Wars. Oh my god. Well, guys, yeah, Disney. Disney's gonna have to go completely broke for them to learn. But this has been a great conversation. You guys have been amazing. Um, we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up here. We've talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know if y'all are gonna continue to watch it, but Az and I do a review of it on his channel, so definitely check that out. Um, we're gonna drop those reviews right after the show, even though it's like what, I don't know, what was it, 2 in the morning my time when we did it? It was so funny. Um, so keep hope alive. We'll continue to watch out for the verdict. We're on verdict watch officially as of tomorrow in the Amber Heard Depp trial. Can't wait to see what happens there. I am off of Twitter for right now, and I'm off of Instagram for right now. I just need a break. Y'all know social media can be a cesspool. So we're gonna just chill. We're gonna chill. Um, thank you, Tina. Thank you. Miss Marvel, oh, don't get me started. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that at a later date. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining me. I hope everybody has a great day. This is Memorial Day here in the US. So let's keep in mind all of our heroes, family members, and friends who've served and lost their lives. Thank you all for joining me. It's been so much fun. I think we got well over 300 people at one point, which is amazing. See you guys next time. Bye. Oh, is the verdict tomorrow? We don't know. We will find out tomorrow. It will be whenever they come back with a decision. Okay? All right. And this video will go private probably in the next 24 hours. So thanks for joining me, guys. See you later. Have a great week. Bye.